Yeah, it's going to be a silly one, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Adam is Chase podcast. I couldn't think of a better way to spend my Thursday afternoon than to talk about a few things that's been going on. You know, I watched They Cloned Tyrone. We're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about a little bit about the script for Manipulator. Because there's a couple, like, basically if you watch this podcast, I wrote a script. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. All right, this is just the intro shit, because honestly I don't even think about what I'm gonna be doing on the podcast until like minutes before. Actually, that's not true. There's been several times where I've started this podcast, or like before I started the podcast, like I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then there's been a few times where I've gone through the entire day and I'm just like, I don't even know what to talk about. I'm just going to turn on my fucking camera and go. So yeah, I watched They Cloned Tyrone last night, and I gotta say, this is something that Secret Invasion wished they were. I'm kidding. No, I mean, it's such a fun fucking movie. It's so goddamn fun. It's one of those films where I knew I would have a good time watching it just by the premise alone. But you have like amazing actors, right? You got Tiona Harris. You got is it Harris or Paris? Actually, I don't know. But you got Jamie Foxx, who's a fucking phenomenal actor, and you got Finn himself as the main fucking character. And I gotta say, John Boyega needs to do way more. Like, he's a leading man. Like, he does leading man shit, and he's got to do way more of that than to just be, a secondary character, which doesn't mean that, like, you are, useless in the overall plot, because every characters are useful. But when it comes to John Boyega, he understood the assignment, and I just don't know like any other actor who can just, I don't know any other. I mean, of course there are actors who can essentially transform into the part, right? And for how, I mean, I don't want to say silly, because it's not a silly movie. It's Tiona Paris, not Harris. It's a film that at one point doesn't really take itself seriously, but in most cases it does. But it doesn't matter, because John Boyega is just going to show up and fucking kill it. You know what I mean? Jamie Foxx too, Tiona, same thing. And the premise of the film is that there's been weird shit happening with a particular neighborhood, a black community, and they run experiments on them. There's just some weird shit happening. And over the course of the film, they basically try to figure out what is going on, what are they doing, and how are they going to stop it and whatnot. That's just brief synopsis if you haven't seen the trailer. Which I don't think it gave away a lot in the trailer. Just like the first 20, 30 minutes. Because I got to tell you something. Kiefer Sutherland came out of fucking nowhere, dude. Like nowhere. I don't even remember him in the trailer at all, and he might have, and I just didn't pay attention. But what a fucking crazy ass movie. It is so good. I loved every part. It was such a great fucking palate cleanser to the bullshit that was fucking Secret Invasion, but it's Marvel shit, right? I have more qualms about Marvel in general than I do with Secret Invasion, but all in all, like, They Clone Tyrone is a fucking great time. Like, this is the definition of a good summertime movie. You know what I mean? Like, I would have loved to see this in the theaters. Now, I didn't, but I would have easily saw this on the big screen because how it's shot too. I don't know if they shot on film, but I wouldn't be surprised if they if they did, because how it's shot, it is very like, the lighting feels so like saturated, like sort of like Drive in a way, like Nicholas Winding Refn films that just feel so saturated in its colors, but rich in characters and the life behind it is so well done. And I don't know if something like this could work without, like, the characters being as fun as they are. You know what I mean? Which was why, like, a lot of people were, at least for me, when I first watched a movie like, Shaun of the Dead, I didn't really know how to feel about zombie films other than that it was just depressing. And Shaun of the Dead was sort of like the opposite of that. It wasn't it was hilarious. It was scary in a couple moments, but, like, it was just hilarious. And that's kind of how it felt with this. It was just like, there's so much shit happening and it's a great time regardless. You know what I mean? And I did read somewhere that there were, like, this I don't want to get into who it is, but, like, somebody on Twitter, I don't know why. I mean, digression time, right? Twitter becoming X, okay? I'm just not on board with all of this. And I got to tell you something. If Threads fucking works out, I'm going to Threads. Because the only reason why I'm on Twitter is because of news. News is the only thing that keeps me on that platform. And if Threads has a way to aggregate that, to make sure there's a way to, like, kind of filter timelines, I guess, in a way, I'd rather do that. Because I'm getting real sick of the fucking reactionary commentary shit. I'm not on board with it. There's a lot of people who are. They love that kind of shit. I'm just not. I am not for it at all. And there was a couple of comments about They Clone Tyrone that was very. It was very, like, because there was a couple of people who mentioned about, like, certain plot holes and whatnot, which we're going to get into spoiler territory, ladies and gentlemen. But so there's this one part in the film where there's like a code word to control the clones. And that's Olympia Black, I think. And when you control all these clones, you could basically say and do whatever the fuck you want to do, essentially. And somebody was like, isn't that a plot hole where at the end, when he was talking to his older self, that he called Olympia Black? And so does that mean anybody can say Olympia Black and they will clone, or they will control that clone, even if they themselves are the clone? Which... That's too much. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's not supposed to be, it's not supposed to be overthought like that, because the point of all this is to express, like, I mean, okay, it does take itself seriously, but there's moments where, of course, things are just super surreal because, well, A, it's a movie. It's fiction, you know? So relax, okay? And then two, it's one of those things where it does lend itself to calling a metaphor for what white America is, essentially. And it's honestly, it's very, very, very believable. It's great. And the characters were honest and real. I love Yo-Yo. The character Yo-Yo is in my opinion hilarious, and then it goes to then that goes to Jamie Foxx after that. But it is like it was great. It's a great fucking time, and these characters are super fucking fun, and the plot is silly, sure, but it doesn't matter because it is the way that we are living now and how racist everything is still and it was back then kind of shows credence to how ridiculous this fucking country is, right? And that's kind of the point, in my opinion. And seeing people who get it or don't get it or just not liking it at all, I mean, you're entitled to all that, but I implore you to maybe give it another watch because I don't know, like it's a fun summertime movie that you can easily slap this on at any time, and you'll probably have a fun time doing it. It's not so in your fucking face with like all the time, no matter what, about like politics or whatever the fuck. I mean, it is political, but it's not like actually it's not. I would argue it's a sci-fi story. It's just kind of like a crazy sci-fi story. But some of the things that I love about the film is the ambiguity of the timeline, because I know it's supposed to take place present day, I think, but it's how it's shot and how the locations are and the production design and everything felt like it took place like in the 90s, maybe late 80s, but like definitely like 90s. But then you see them with like at one point Jamie Foxx has like a Motorola Razr, which shout out to the Razr, dude, the most breakable phone ever to exist. And seeing that is amazing. But then you get another scene where John Boyega Fontaine would walk, I think, to like a room, and he would pass by a desk, and you'd see like a typewriter, just like an electronic typewriter, just chilling on a desk. And it's like, wait, what the fuck? Like, what is happening with this timeline? Because you definitely see that there are, there's an understanding in even if it's in its dialogue and its references that it's present day, that it's like it takes place now. But interesting enough, you don't see anybody with like an iPhone, or maybe there were, but I didn't even see anybody with like a regular smartphone. It's so weird how now we call regular phones like smartphones now. It's just like, oh, it's just a phone, it's just a regular phone. But like 20 years ago, like if you say, oh yeah, it's my phone, it's like, oh, okay, so you just like make like calls and T9 mobile texting, And now that's such a fucking huge thing of the past. God. You guys remember T9 mobile texting? That shit drove me nuts. That was like the worst way of texting. It was like the most infuriating thing. And like a lot of phone, like the Motorola Razr was T9 mobile. And for you fucking youngins who don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, T9 mobile texting is basically like you see the number on the keypads, you spell out each word with that corresponding letter to the number. So, however you dial your number, it has like the letters according to it. You would like type that up. And I got to the point where I was getting really fucking fast with it But then that was literally when iPhone came out, and everything just kind of went out the fucking window with that shit. Which I did enjoy because it was like very quick, very fast. Like, okay, this is. I just want to get my one-worded point across, and then that's it. Because you can't really type up like fucking essays on like iMessage with T9 mobile texting. That shit will just take you like a week to do. Whereas like now we just get like a full keyboard, of course. But like, yeah, it's just that time was such a weird, awesome, crazy fucking time. Especially for movies and whatnot. But anyways, yeah, They Clone Tyrone is very ambiguous when it came to like all the timeline shit and whatnot. And I love that. I actually definitely love that. Because more times than not, a lot of people don't really take advantage of the magical world of what their genre is. And I feel like the director, Joel Taylor, just sort of like wanted to embrace the sci-fi story for what it is, right? And so you can basically play in any world you really want. And in this case, it's like hyper realistic, filming, storytelling in a way. And I feel like that's been lost a lot when it comes to like sci-fi, because when people think of sci-fi, like the first thing they can think of is like Star Trek or something like that, right? Which is fair. It's kind of the quintessential classic, but like, something like this you wouldn't necessarily think because, well, it's more comedy than anything, but it's also like a good deep sci-fi film. Like there's lore, there's characters, there's world building, all that, right? And how they went about it, including the third act. Like you can argue the third act like was fine, but I enjoyed it just because it's like it felt like it felt like the I don't know, like it felt like what a sci-fi film should end in, like whether or not it's typical or not typical, it got the ending the way it's supposed to have, and so I don't know, I think it's a good fucking time. I enjoyed the film a lot. I think it speaks to America as a whole very eloquently. And in a comedic form where, like, I feel like this is very easy to understand, but also, there's going to be a lot of like people who are going to probably disagree with this, and few already have, but I don't give a shit about those people, and I don't want to give them the time of day, but highly recommend it. Bring a friend. Get your family, get whatever, but I highly recommend it. Now, out of 10, I don't know, man. This was a lot of fun. I had a good time. So I'm gonna give it a hard 8 to a light 9. Yeah, hard 8 to a light 9. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm sure if I watched it, a couple more times, that rating could change. But right now, okay, maybe not 9. Okay, just 8. Just in terms of like how fun it is. It is absolutely fun. So yeah, it's going to be an 8, not a light 9. That's like, we're crossing into like, fucking 2001 Space Odyssey. Space Odyssey is like, well, that's more of like a 10. It's a hard 9, pretty much perfect fucking movie somehow. Even though it's long, it's dense, there's so much shit, and it feels like it's drawn out, but it's not, you know. Um, and that movie took me a few times to watch. The first couple times I couldn't even get through it. The third time I was in college, I want to say, or just like about to get into college. It's like 19, I'm pretty sure. Late 18, early 19, whatever. But when I was around that age, I finally watched it because I was like, in my early 20s, I thought like, you know, I thought I was a true cinemaphile for watching every single Stanley Kubrick film. But, you know, as I got older and looked back at other Stanley Kubrick shit and revisiting them too, which I should probably rewatch 2001 at some point. But, you know, rewatching something like Clockwork Orange still holds up very well, and it's still very unsettling. Shining, great fucking movie. It was the first, I guess, scary film or horror film that I've seen ever. So that has like memories and shit like that. The twins still scare the shit out of me. Long hallways still scare the shit out of me. And turning corners on those long hallways still scares it. That's why like any corner I turn in a hallway, I have to stand on the very edge on the outside so that the perspective of when I turn the corner, because if you go on the far left side to the wall and then you follow it until you hit the corner, you don't get a chance to see your depth of field. So that's why I go outside to the right side of the wall where the corner begins, and then if I see those twins covered in blood, I can then just beeline right the fuck back. You know? So now, Adam, have you run into that shit? No, but you may never know. You may never know. I don't know. But I don't want to run into that chance because fuck that. You know? Shit's scary. You know? Also old naked women too. That shit's scary. It's so mean, Adam. Shut up. I'll cut that out. I guess. Maybe not. I don't know. Who cares? You know? I don't mean it. It's a free film comedy podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Great movie. Sci-fi has gotten a pretty good amount of love, which I'm very happy about, and blaxploitation films too. Like those movies are a lot of fun to watch, and I forgot how like fucking cool they are too. Because I watched Shaft's big score not too long ago, and that was just like, and I'm still pretty new with blaxploitation films, so I'm in no way like an expert, but like already by what I've seen so far, you know, and these are like Criterion Collection shit. I'm sure there are plenty of other ones that are really fucking good that I probably just won't know about, or I need to like really seek out for, which I definitely will, because I think that's a subgenre that tends to not get appreciated enough, in my opinion. So yeah, I enjoy it. They Clone Tyrone is a huge wreck. Go watch it. And yeah, so what's next on we're 25 minutes in. So what's next on the docket? I put in I put in UFO question mark because I don't know, man. Fuck it. Aliens are real. They're here. Okay? Move on. Look, man, like, here's the thing. I can't give that much shit about something that has only been notorious for showing the most grainiest fucking photos ever in photography history. Any alien fucking photo or unidentified phenomenon, UAPs, right? They are always grainy as fuck. And the multiple accounts, yeah, are scary. And yeah, there's some that just connect and shit. Fine. But not one fucking... We had the ability to shoot film in 1080p for like... I mean, what? 20 years at this point? Right? Is that right? I don't know. But like, we've had that technology for a long fucking time. Now we can shoot shit in like 4K, fucking 5K. We can go above and beyond with how many fucking pixels we can really fucking, mush into one frame, And that's great. Do that with the fucking alien shit. You know what I mean? Why the fuck are we not seeing this? That being said, I'm going to watch the UFO documentaries right after this. I will. And it gives me a reason to go back through, speaking of sci-fi shit, going back and watching like old films and whatnot, like, Close Encounters, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like all that, like cool ass fucking like sci-fi cinema. Because like I want to get into the mood of that before I'm just like gonna go like, yep, they're fucking real. Holy shit, man, it's super fucking real. Which I'm not saying that aliens aren't real. I mean, for fuck's sake, like us compared to the entire universe, we're like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a grain of rice to the vast, huge, never-endingness of what the universe is. Not just the fucking Milky Way, but galaxies, like the universe in general. Which I don't doubt there's got to be some sort of extraterrestrial life in some variancy. But the fact that, again, we can't take one crisp photo of an alien, and the fact that like these people are saying that like that they seen alien bodies and crashed flying saucers, and not one of these motherfuckers had a Kodak fucking disposable camera in their pocket to be like, dog, I gotta fucking do something about this. But because most of these stories have come from like old Jim Bob Billy Joe from Alabama who fucking saw some shit, but he has like a history of like abusing meth. Like you can't trust these information, and half of these motherfuckers you can't even understand. So you're just like, okay, so you're saying that like you saw a body, but it's a crash ship. It's like, yeah, big old down browser, and we burn the ground, and the ground you can't see it, and there's smoke everywhere. And it's like, dude, like I mean, there's got to be way more people. And I know there are way more accounts of that, but again, it's the same logic of, let's take a fucking photo. Let's start. I mean, I'm sure, those Reddit people are locked into those, conspiracy shit. One crisp photo and they'll go running. You know what I mean? We'll get to the bottom of it, dude. And you know me, I love a good story where we get to the bottom of things, dude. Like anywhere between Cat in the Hat to Inception. you get to the bottom of things. And that's what I'm here for, So yeah, if that all shit really culminates into something that is real and tangible, like a photo, then I'm on board. I'm 1,000% on board. You know what I mean? And I haven't watched these documentaries, right? So that could also convince me. But at the same time, it's like, you broach like the conspiracy line pretty quickly when you start talking about this shit, because it's like, and rightfully so, like a lot of people just roll their eyes at this because it's like, well, everybody's seen some shit that they can't explain. I've grown up and seen some shit that you can't explain. There's this one time, digression time. There's this one time I was in school, and I shit you fucking not. I shit you not. This is real to the realest to the real. Okay. I was playing in the play. This was elementary school. I don't know how old I was, but like I was in fourth grade. No, third grade. I was in third grade because I remembered the class and all that, because it was a kid who was in my same classroom, but he was in another classroom just right across from it. And I only seen this kid once. That's it. Just this one time. And I never saw him again. So here we go. When I was in elementary school, there's this kid who I, every once in a while, like in the beginning of the school year, like I would see him, and then, my friends would hang out with him and shit like that. So we all sort of kind of like got friendly playing kickball and shit like that, right? So one day we were just playing in the, the jungle gym, right? Just running around the monkey bars and whatnot. My man, one time, like by accident, like I was on the monkey bars and he was on the ground, and I accidentally fell on top of him. Like I slipped and I just fell right on top of him. And I shit you not, like the kid had like a cut on his arm. I think from like the tan bark or something. I don't know what. And I was so scared because I never hurt somebody like that before, and it scared me. So I was apologetic. I was freaking out, and everyone, I know what I saw. Okay, this kid with the cut on his arm just started having like purple blood come out of his arm. I'm not kidding you. Purple blood came out of his arm, and it looked like Gogurt. Like it looked like Gogurt. And I couldn't understand it. I was like, what the fuck? What is that? And since then, because he ran away right after that. Like I saw the little cut, and it wasn't big either. It was just like it was like right on his arm. It was like maybe like that big. It was like no. It was like half an inch. Yeah. It was half an inch, something like that. And it was small. It wasn't like a gaping wound. It was just a cut. And when the blood sort of like kind of a little bit seeping out, it was purple. Like fucking a grimace like the fucking grimace shake. Like it was that kind of shit. I'm like, what the fuck? And the kid looked at me and just ran away. Just ran away. Just went to the principal's office, and I thought he was going to tell on me. Like I was thinking like, oh fuck. He's like, oh, I'm going to be thrown out of school. Like that's it. No one came up to me. No one said anything. Nothing. Just went about our day. Went about my day. The next day, didn't see him. And from then on, never saw him. I never saw him again. And I can't explain to you why. I don't know what happened. I even asked around, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't know. I think he transferred to another school, or some people thought that he like their family moved and whatnot. So he had to go anyways. It was such a strange fucking thing. So again, I've seen some crazy shit that is just unexplainable. And, it doesn't mean that, it's something, right? I don't know. I'm going to watch these documentaries. I'm going to be like, actually, I take all that back. I am on board. There's aliens everywhere. They're in the water. They're everywhere, So I don't know what to think of it anymore. I really don't. I honestly don't even know what to think of like UFOs and shit. But I know this won't be the last time I'm going to talk about this, so whatever. We can just move on and whatnot. So let's talk about Manipulator. At least one part of Manipulator, and that is the setting. Because I was thinking about this while I was watching They Clone Tyrone, and how awesome it is to finally watch a sci-fi film that doesn't, end in such dread, that like we finally get a film that actually like calls to something that feels nice, maybe not all the time. And most certainly with the story like that, doesn't necessarily mean that it's all fucking bright and wholesome and whatnot. It's none of those, but it's still a fun story. And I think, at least with my script with Manipulator, I wouldn't say it was the first thing that I thought of, but as I was writing this script, there was a thing that kept repeating in my brain. It is that don't take yourself seriously. Don't take yourself seriously. Let the story be the way it should be. And since then, like, I've always tried to make it so fucking serious and make sure it's like so grounded in such dread that like it feels like a drag just the entire time. And it got to the point where it was too dreadful for me. Like, as I read it, like, and I thought I was a failure. It was like I got halfway through the script and it was so sad. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, this script doesn't work. It just doesn't work because people write serious films and I'm not a serious filmmaker, not a serious writer. They can't take me seriously. But I got to the point where at some point I had to let that shit go by reminding myself that like, this is the story that I want to tell. So however the story is going to be, it's just going to be, instead of me just trying to overthink it and overcomplicate shit. Let's just make something that I wanted to see in a post-apocalyptic film, which is something of hopefulness, not so much, existential dread, like, I love Book of Eli. That shit's sad. Especially in the end, spoiler alert, when Denzel just fucking makes his last stand and whatnot. I'm like, God damn it, man. It's just, whatever. But, then you get something like The Rover, with Guy Pearce. And I think written by Joel Edgerton. Or directed? No, it was written, I think. But that was also sad. That was also very fucking sad. Mad Max, same shit. Road Warrior, a little more, less than that, for sure. Like, it was definitely, it's still serious, but like, it wasn't as so fucking like, oh, this is just fucking, ugh. And then the one post-apocalyptic film that I did enjoy, but it's not for the faint of heart, and it's just really fucking sad. And that is The Road with Viggo Mortensen and somebody else, but it was derived from it was adapted from a Cormac McCarthy film, or a Cormac McCarthy book of the same name. And I didn't read the book, but apparently people told me it was like, oh yeah, no, the book is just absolutely fucking depressing and shit. I'm like, oh, I think I'm good. Like, I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, I should probably do more post-apocalyptic shit research, since I have probably put in hundreds of hours of apocalyptic shit all the time. I thought, oh, Cormac McCarthy, that should be a pretty nice, easy read. No. No, it's very depressing. And you would think it would be hopeful, but it's not at all. It's just about a father and his son. Excuse me. And I just don't see a point in which, like, I would want to make something like that that's just so fucking serious, that feels like It's just it feels like it's an ache, that you just like that you get through watching that film. It's just like this consistent heartache that you feel, and you're just like, ugh. That I mostly mistaken it for indigestion because I eat like fucking garbage. But it's mostly like, yeah, it's just I feel bad. Like it feels heavy, you know? And you know, I don't uh I don't recommend it for people who are very sensitive when it comes to shit like that. Um and the way that the world is now like today, it doesn't feel that far off from what the reality of well, not the reality, but the stories in which these post-apocalyptic films take place is getting to and not so far off from like what's happening today, you know, um, with war and with recessions and all sorts of shit that just makes living in the world just that much more hard, I guess, or just so difficult to the point where it's like right, like I mean, our entire lives is revolved around money. So it's just like, what if that just goes away? And that's basically my jumping off point with Manipulator. It was like, okay, what if just money just didn't exist? It's gone. You know, how would the infrastructure look like? How would the economy look like? How would the country itself look like? In all the little nuances within it, and I'm only touching on one perspective of that with hopes of like maybe expanding, but like that's the one thing that I just have to focus on. It's just that one part of it, which is like, the location of Louisiana to Texas and how the South plays a little bit differently than most of the other places in the country. And yeah, I think that having a hopeful post-apocalyptic film is just something that really interests me, and I'm very excited to tell because it's a story that means a lot to me about family and about, appreciating the company that you have, uh, and never to lose sight on it. And I think that's kind of the way that I wanted to go about this film for a while now. Because at first, again, like I said, like I thought this shit was just going to be depressing, and it doesn't have to be. It does not have to be at all depressing. Because I mean, look, it is depressing for what the world became, but for what these characters, at least for Manipulator, have gone through, you in some way probably have gone through a similar thing, because I tried to relate so much between the sisters, and even like other characters too. So this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Especially that I'm a fan of post-apocalyptic, like nightmarish films. One of my favorite films, one of my favorite zombie films, is 28 Days Later, and it's sort of like broadened the horizons of what world building in cinema can really take. And then I saw Mad Max, and I was like, wait, so this was able to be achieved all the way back in like the 70s or 80s, and it actually is good, and they made it good. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's the thing. It's like when I watch old films, I'm always hesitant because I always think to myself, I'm like, why am I gonna appreciate something that's so fucking old and I'm probably not gonna like anyways? But then as I watch a lot of these old films, I'm like, oh fuck, these are like cinema classics, and I'm just sitting on them. That's not to say that all fucking old films are good, there's a lot. There's a lot that are not good, you know. So yeah, that was kind of the mindset for Manipulator, was just, I want to make this as hopeful as I possibly can without making the story feel like generic or hokey, like it doesn't fall quickly into tropes. Well, I guess it does in some way, shape, or form, which isn't a bad thing. But when I'm trying to make an original like a story that isn't derived from anything, it's very hard to do because you don't really have a jumping off point. Although my jumping off point was it came to me pretty early, which I felt was lucky and was the only thing that got me to essentially finish the fucking script. That took me 3 fucking years to make, but 10 years in my brain to digest and think about and, retroactively think about just all the fucking time. And it didn't like, start and end with Manipulator. There's so many other examples of stories that I thought about, and that one was just kind of something that stuck in my brain because I was thinking like, oh yeah, it would be fun to make a post-apocalyptic film. I think that would be pretty fucking cool, because I've always loved those kind of movies and whatnot, and Book of Eli, especially one of them. I think that was what really got me like jump started with that idea in my brain, was because of Book of Eli, but not because like, oh, it's a horrible movie and I didn't like the ending at all. It's not that. I love the ending and I love the fucking movie. It's just when you get to the bottom of it, it's still a very sad fucking story. And I didn't know what to do with that other than just take it for what it is. And I did, because it's still a really good story, but it still was kind of in my brain that I was just like, God, I wish this could be a little happier. There's like a little bit more hopefulness, because regardless, like where you are, there's just certain people in your life where it like you feel like, oh, the world can be on fire, but as long as I'm with this person or I'm with these people, none of that shit really matters. It's like white noise. Of course it matters, right? It's a human fucking race. These are real people, but all in all, it's the company that you have that is worth keeping and worth like having, rather than just thinking like, oh, well, it's just the end of the fucking world and we're just going to try to survive as long as we can. For what? Like most of these post-apocalyptic films, like especially The Road, like at a certain point, I would just fucking like, all right, I gotta end it for me. There's no way. I know this is super fucking dark, but like, come on, you know what I mean? It's like trying to fight an entire horde of like zombies. It's like, where are you gonna go? You're back to a corner. There's nothing, unless like you are gonna I Am Legend it and just fucking grab a grenade and just fucking run into the crowd. That's fucking crazy. So yeah, but also like, the topic in which we're talking about, like, apocalyptic shit, is also inherently silly. You know what I mean? It's a very silly notion. I understand a lot of people are like, well, we're not that far off anymore. We are very far off. We are very far. I don't think in the next 5-10 years we're just gonna have bandits on the fucking road just fucking tearing homes down and gutting them and stealing everything they possibly can. I just feel like that's stupid. Like that's well, that's not even a good story. That's just lazy storytelling. Like you want this shit to be interesting. You want this shit to have a little more depth and nuance that you can, you can take away from and whatnot, right? So, yeah, I think post-apocalyptic stories are great and worth telling. I just wish they are just a little bit happier. And I know there are, I think, that I'm just not thinking of that I'm sure I probably will after I'm done recording this. But again, it's just like they're very far few between. And the ones that are successful are the ones that are just rooted in fucking just utter dread, you know? And I want to see it just a little differently. I can't stop yawning, and I hate it. Ugh. So anyways, that's about it. That's it. That's nothing more. I know it's 50 minutes, but, you know, again, I'm tired, and, you know, I still got a lot of shit to do, and I just figured, you know what? I'm just going to record a quick little ep and talk about they cloned Tyrone because I love that shit, and talk a little more about Manipulator and a sprinkle of fucking UFOs, because why the fuck not? You know? And I'll be watching some of that shit. It's just, I could give two shits about it right now. That's all I got to say. Anyways, see you next time.